Welcome back, Hive Mind. This is Shalazar with Hive Mind Gaming, coming at you with a tabletop simulator video for the new Massive Darkness 2 on Kickstarter. It's brought to you by CMON or CMON, however you want to pronounce it, however they want to pronounce it, who knows. Uh, CMON and Guillotine Games. It's on Kickstarter right now. I will put a link in the description for the Kickstarter. I will also put in the description a link for the actual demo that they set up for Steam and Tabletop Simulator, so that if you want to try it out yourself after this, then you can do that. All right, let's get into it. All right. So here we have the demo for Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape. This is a demo put out by the company, by CMON and Guillotine Games. And so it's going to have just basic information based on what they've allowed us to see for this demo. So there is going to be, keep in mind, guys, this stuff is work in progress according to them. If you read the rule book, it will tell you that it's a work in progress. It will tell you that this stuff that they're going to still be working on this stuff. And like when you try to, like one of the rules is when you get to the end of this tracker, it flips over. You can't flip it. So there's certain things that aren't going to work in this demo that would normally work in a game of Massive Darkness. Hopefully, at some point, they will put out a full representation of the game on Tabletop Simulator. Maybe they put it on as an add-on. That would be great. I would pay for that. That way I could play it immediately. That would be fantastic, and that would keep the game fresh. So when the game does finally come out, you're still excited and you know exactly how to play by the time it comes out. Now, I'm sure all of you have seen 102 playthrough videos advertised on your streams and things like that. So I want to do something a little bit different. For those of you that don't want to sit through a 3 hour long playthrough video, I just wanted to do a quick video of what's new, what has changed on this game versus the original Massive Darkness 1. So I went through and I made some bullet points. That way, you don't have to sit through a complete playthrough. You can actually just, without needing to read the rulebook, and just for your reference, if you do come in here, you can actually go right down here and you can read the entire rulebook as they have it now. Now, I have found a few questionable mistakes on how things are written in the rulebook where they don't make sense. I will be sending that to CMON themselves in hopes that they will correct it before release. So here's to hoping. So if you go down here, it does have the complete book that I can tell. If you go to the very beginning, it does tell you up in the corner here that it is a work in progress. So, please don't give them too much crap. Now it says rules and quests, but if you get to the very back, it doesn't actually have the quests in the back. But it does have the quest that you're working on right here. So this is the demo quest right here. So, and it's quest 1. So I'm sure this is what you're going to play in the game once it comes out. So as you can see, it's got a representation of all the miniatures that you would play during this quest. So kind of neat. I really dig it. I think they did a pretty good job. I have played through the game a couple of times on here. So but I do have a firm understanding of the rules. So let's get into it. All right. So the first thing I want to go over is the dice. The dice have changed. There's no longer the three different dice to, or the two different dice to attack, the two different dice to defend, and then all that, all that. But as of the base game, there are actually five types of dice. Sorry, five types of dice. The first one is the orange and yellow. The first couple are the orange and yellow. They are the attack dice of the heroes. Pick up your use your weapons. Your weapons will dictate what dice you're going to roll, and that's going to be either yellow or orange. Now there is a new symbol on the attack dice that wasn't there before in the original, and that's going to be this little starburst down here. So the swords are obviously the hits, so that's how much damage you're dealing for each sword. So two on the top, one on the bottom. And then there is the blank spots that signify nothing happens. And then there's these little starbursts. Now, what the starbursts are, that's actually mana. So a lot of the abilities for your characters have to use mana to activate them. And so every time you roll one of the starbursts on the when you're attacking slash defending whatever, you gain mana back. So that's that symbol means. All right. Then you have this purple die, and this purple die is the shadow mode die. Now, what that means is if you're how they're doing the shadow in the original game, if you stood in shadow, you could activate your shadow ability of your character. Each champion, each hero had their own ability, and then they had a shadow ability. And the shadow ability was usually stronger than your regular ability, but you had to be standing in shadow to do it. Now, the shadow die works slightly different now, or your shadow abilities work slightly different now. Now, if you're standing in shadow, you roll whatever dice your weapon tells you to roll, but if you're standing in shadow, you also roll this die. Now, it's just what it means is it's an extra die that you roll with your abilities, and it gives you extra damage, mana, whatever. So you have the swords, you have the mana that you can get, but you can also get that little mask right there. If you roll that mask while rolling your shadow die, that's when you can activate your shadow ability. So, shadow abilities are pretty strong, and that means that you're very rarely going to be able to, not very rarely, but once 1 out of 6 chance of rolling or being able to activate your shadow ability. But as you can see, there's a lot of great opportunity to do extra damage, gain extra mana, things like that. To be in the shadow, being in the shadows is still really good. As for the blue dice are going to work just like they did in the original game, which is just your defense dice. But there are only used. They're only if everyone uses blue dice. There are no more green dice to be better that are better at defending. It's just that. Now, then there is the black dice, which is the monster dice. Now, what the monster dice is, anytime I really like how in the original game, one of my biggest issues with the original game is the minions. The minions were literally just ablative wounds for the leader of the mob. So they were just ablative wounds, meaning that if you do damage to the minions, and then you've got to kill them off before you can start attacking the main champion. Fantastic, great, I love it. Not really. Actually, I hated it. So in this game, they actually made them a model. They actually made them worth being there. And so one of the things that they did is they get to throw a rock basically. If you get the reference from Warhammer 40K, where you got guys in combat and then you got guys that are close but not actually in base to base, they get to throw a rock. They get an extra die. So this is what this is. So if you're fighting a group of bad guys and there's the leader and 4 minions, you get an extra die per minion. The leader doesn't count, just the minions. And so you roll that many dice, and then on these, blank means nothing happens. The slashes, the 3 slashes, means that it does an extra wound to the guy who's attacking. Now, there's no way to defend it. You just take the wound, bam, done, move on to the next step. If it rolls a claw, a lot of mobs, roaming monsters, and bosses have abilities that only activate if they roll a claw. So sometimes it's 2 claws, sometimes it's just 1 claw, things like that, and then it activates their special ability. I really like the addition of the black dice. I think it's really it makes having the minions more important, and it affects how combat is going to work. So I think overall, I think they've simplified it yet expanded on it, so it makes a lot more sense than the original. And I think they did a really good job with the shadow dice. They made being in the shadow important still, but your when you use your actual shadow ability, it actually means something. I like it. I really do like it. And then I love the addition of the monster dice that only are affected by the minions. So as you kill off minions, they get less dice. So I think it's great. I think it's a fantastic addition. All right. So the next thing I want to take a look at is dashboards. So it's going to be completely different from the original. The original was just a basic, hands and tracker for your XP, etc. This is going to actually be for your hands, your helmet, your chest piece, feet, and then your ring. Everything else just goes off to the side because it's considered to be in your backpack. As and your of course your character sheet goes there. The way they're doing XP is this is the tens. So once you get to 9, you go to 10. This goes back to 0, and this moves over to 10. And then it goes through and goes to 9, which means that you'll be at 19. And then once you get your next one, this goes back to 0, and that will go to 20, etc. So this is your tens, and this is your ones. So you can go all the way up to 59 XP. Now, as you go up in XP, to go to level 2, it is 5 XP. It tells you right here. So it's 5 XP, and there is a phase, an actual phase to go into the next level. So you would pay your 5 XP and move to level 2. Once you move to level 2, you get whatever it says here. And now what this means is you get +1 max health. So her max health is 8. So you have 8 tokens. You would put another token right here. And then you add that token, which is the rare treasure token, into the treasure bag, which we're going to go over the treasure bag here in a second. But you add that to the treasure bag. Now, the next time you go up a level, you pay 10 to go to level 3. And at that point, you would get +1 to your max mana. So her max mana is 2, so you would add another token here for your max mana. And then you would add an epic treasure token to the treasure bag. And then 15 for level 4, 20 for level 5. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the dashboard. Alright, so I mentioned it just a second ago about the treasure bag, so let's go ahead and go over that. So the treasure bag is actually going to have these treasure tokens. There's 3 types of treasure tokens. There is the common treasure, the rare treasure, and then of course you've seen beside the dashboard the epic treasure. Now, at the beginning of every game, what you're going to do, you're going to take all the common treasure tokens and you're going to put them in your treasure bag. Now, depending on what the scenario says, each scenario will also tell you if you start with any extra. For this one, I assume that it's going to start you with 5 extra. This is the first time I actually looked in the bag. But I assume that you're starting with 5 extra tokens in the treasure bag. And it will tell you that in each scenario. Now, as you go up in level, you're going to add more tokens to the treasure bag, which gives you a better chance of pulling rare and epic treasure cards when you open a chest or kill a mob or whatever. So that's going to help you out with that. Also, when you pull a treasure token, so for instance, you open up a chest and you pull a treasure token. Once you use that treasure token and draw a card, the token goes back into the bag. So there's always that same chance to pull those tokens. So the chance of pulling a common versus a rare is always the same. So that's basically how the treasure bag works. It's very simple. I really like it. I think they did a good job on updating that and how they did that. The thing that a lot of people or some people have complained about is how they're doing the treasure, which we'll go over that next. All right. So here is the treasure cards, the treasure decks. There's still 6 decks for the treasure. It works slightly different though. So I really like how they did this, and I know that there's going to be some guys out there that are going to be like, "Oh, I want treasure." You're going to get treasure, guys. I'm telling you. So first off, there's 3 levels of monsters now. Your basic mobs have three levels. You've got your 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and level 5. It's based on your character level. So that means if you go through and loot a bunch of rooms, kill a bunch of mobs, and then now you're like one guy is level 4 and the rest of you are level 1. In the first game, you're still dealing with level 2 monsters because that's where you're at in the dungeon. Now, in this, if you got one guy that's level 4 and everyone else is level 1, your mobs are now level 4. So your mobs are drawn based on the highest level of your highest character on the team. So if you've got one guy that's level 4, that's what level your mobs are going to be. So when you pull a mob card, most mobs will not have any ability to attack on their card. So their cards are going to just show their defense and any special abilities they have. Their attack is dictated by whatever monster item they draw. So if we draw one here and we place this on someone, whatever mob we have are now magic users because they are using staffs of darkness, meaning the whole squad is using a staff of darkness. So that means every time they attack, they can attack from 0 to 1 range because that's how magic works, just like in the old one. And then they roll 2 orange dice. So it's two-handed because it has the 2 hands. And they can't do any special abilities here. They just roll 2 dice. Now, with that being said, when you kill the mob, you get this monster item, just like you did in the first one. But most monsters will have a little key on their card, and it'll have a number, and it'll tell you whether or not you put one or more tokens. So what you do is when you draw a monster, let's say it's a level 1 monster. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw a monster item for him. That's going to be his weapon, the mob's weapon. And then you're going to look at his key and see whatever number the key is, and then you're going to pull that many key tokens or treasure tokens out of the bag and put it on his card, his monster card. So whoever kills that monster is going to get this item and whatever tokens they are. So it could be any of these tokens, and then when you get that whatever token it is, you draw a card from whichever pile the token says to draw from. And so you get both those items. So, yep, that's basically how that works. So in this case, and just so you know, most ranged weapons have a range attack, which is 0 to unlimited to line of sight, 1 to line of sight, so they can't shoot in the same area. So they've added a extra melee attack, so that they can so you can be equipped with this longbow and still use an attack in melee. So that is a big change to the original. So I really like that. All right, the last thing I want to bring up about the treasure cards is there are sets in the game. There's not going to be any on this demo. I can only imagine that they're trying to keep them a secret, so when you play the actual game that you'll be excited for them. But basically what it is there'll be different sets to go on your dashboard. I can only assume, because it's only mentioned in the rulebook, doesn't actually say what it is, but I can only assume that the sets are going to be for all the locations, at least these locations. And when you have the different sets, I don't know if any of you played Kingdom Death Monster, but it's going to be similar to that, where if you have a two-piece set, or Diablo, if any of you played Diablo on the video game, if you have a two-piece set, it gives you a bonus. If you have a three-piece set, it gives you a bigger bonus. If you have a four-piece set, even bigger. And if you have a full set, it gives you the maximization of that set. So super excited about that, to see how that plays out and works. So super excited about that. So that's another difference that I really like about this game. They kind of played with the set bonuses in the first one, but this one is even expanded on, and I love it. I think it's great. All right, let's move on to the monsters. They are slightly different than they were before. There are the mobs, which are basically your basic monsters, and then your roaming monsters, just like before. So with your basic mob, the cards are slightly different. So if you draw this, let's say we draw this guy. So basically what we're going to do is they're going to have two defense dice when they're attacked. We draw one token out of the treasure token and put on this card, and then each member of this mob is going to be 2 health. Now, what it is, you get the leader, and then you count the number of heroes, and that's how many minions are on the board. So minions are done way simpler. The health is way simpler, and I mean it's just just completely streamlined. I think it's fantastic. They did a great job on this. I don't know if that's going to make the game harder or easier. I just know that it's a lot simpler to figure out how many miniatures are on the board, how many minions are going to be in the on the table fighting you. It's just such a great idea. All right, so everything else works the same though. It has a special ability. As you see, there's nothing down here that shows the attack, because for the basic mobs, we're going to draw one of the monster cards based on whatever level the monsters are at, and then we're going to draw a card and put it underneath him, and that's the that's the weapon that this group is using. So it could be great swords, it could be bows and arrows, it could be, I don't know, punch daggers, it could be a wand, a staff, it could be just about anything. But that's what that those angels would be using. So just a fantastic way that they did those. Now these are different. Roaming monsters don't draw cards to put on them. They do get extra tokens though, as you can see. So this would automatically get a rare token, and then two drawn randomly out of the bag. So that's how that would work. All right. And then this would be this undead queen would have 4 health per hero. So they did these are that's pretty much the same, but it would be hard not to do it that way with the roaming monsters. For the dice, she would get 1 blue and 1 black because she's got no minions with her. So she or they will tell you on here what they roll. And then that's her attack rolls, and then her special ability. Now, the way that attacks work with the mobs, it works slightly different than it did in the original. Theirs is simply they attack the hero with the most XP during the monster phase, the enemy phase. They attack the hero with the highest HP or the highest experience. So the highest experience, they attack that person. And then if it's a tie, they attack the hero with the highest unspent XP. Then if it's still a tie, then it's the player's choice. They're going to work slightly different because they've got an area right here that tells us what their priority is going to be when it comes to what they're doing during their turn when they activate. So slightly different. There is a third type of monster in this game that is not in the demo, and that's the boss. The boss is going to have its own card. It's going to be a large card. And again, it's not, they don't have a representation of it here, but there is going to be a boss card that is going to have its own priorities, its own actions. It's going to actually have its own event bar, I guess is the best way to put it, tracker at the bottom that makes the longer you're in combat with it, the more powerful they get. So it's very important that you take the boss down as quickly as possible. Things to know about the boss: when you have a scenario that includes a boss, usually the boss is the win scenario, is the win goal. So to win that scenario, you have to kill the boss. So with that being said, you want to get to the boss. As soon as all the players have entered the boss chamber, the rest of the tiles can be removed because you're at the final stage of the game. Every hero recovers max health, max HP, and max mana. The darkness tracker, which is this right here, is removed and is no longer used. You now go to the tracker that's on the bottom of the boss card. Every time that you go to the darkness phase, that tracker increases, and the boss gets stronger depending on how long you stay in contact until you kill her, basically. Also, with bosses, each boss has a passive ability, special ability, a number of actions, and a boss track. So, and all the bosses are on so far are on 80mm bases, so they're going to be huge. So far, there's only 2 bosses in the game, I believe. Who knows if we'll get another one through stretch goals or daily unlocks, but so far those are the only bosses in the game. All right, tiles. So tiles are really different. I mean, the look of them is exactly the same. They say they got the same idea with the outline is the walls. The art on I'm not a huge fan of the art for the characters or the monsters, but I am a huge fan of how they did the tiles in both games. Actually, I was a little leery about how they did it in this game, but after playing through it, it works. It works. Okay, so if it has this symbol right here, it's a spawn zone for monsters. And if it has a key, then we already know that the key is for treasure treasure tokens. So basically it works a lot different when you're going through and you're opening doors. So first off, when you're opening a door, in the old system, you would draw a door card. So if we were opening this door right here, you would draw a door card, right? And it would tell you what spawned in these two locations. Well, it doesn't work that way. Now the board itself tells you what spawns. So nothing's going to spawn here, but a mob will spawn here and a treasure token will be put there. But before we do that, we draw a door card. So we flip that over, and this tells us what we're going to do. So it's an event, and it says don't spawn mobs on this chamber. Instead, spawn one mob on any, and that's a mob spawn token of player's choice. So instead of spawning a mob here, we choose any token that we want, and we spawn it there. So obviously we're gonna spawn it there because this is the only one on the table. If you notice, this one is slightly different than this one because it's got the line going down the center, plus it's a circle. It's encased in a circle. So we can only spawn it on one of those, which I don't believe we have any more on the table. Nope. So that's where we have to spawn it. So basically what we would do, we would look at the highest level of any player, which in this case it's going to be level 1 because we're just starting, and then we would spawn the card right there. We would add the weapon to it, and then we would draw any other treasure tokens, that kind of thing. And then we would put one treasure token in this room. Draw one treasure token, put in this room. Now, if we open this one and it was in that same situation, then we would spawn the one goon here, and then we would put a treasure token here, and then we look at this one, and this is a special treasure. So you don't just pull a treasure token. A basic treasure token goes here. If they have a treasure chest in it, it's an actual special location. There's the other one. So there's normal, and then there's special treasure chests. Okay, so what that means is, what we're going to do is we're going to draw 2 treasure tokens and choose the best one to put in here in this location. Same with that one, same with that one. Now with this one, we're going to draw 3 treasure tokens, and we're going to choose the 2 best and put them there. So that's how those work. That's how the little treasure chest icons work. Alright, so that's pretty much how the board works. There's certain things that can go on the board, like for instance the forge, the doors. Doors do block line of sight. That's the same. They do have traps now. So there are certain traps that can go on the board. There's special zones. There's the spike trap, and what that is if you move on to the spike trap, you roll 1 yellow die, and you take damage per sword that's rolled. Monsters ignore spike traps. There's a bear trap, which I don't believe there's a bear trap on here. Nope. No bear trap. As you can see, the little symbol right here, that signifies that it's a spike trap. A bear trap will actually have the little symbol like that that will look like a bear trap. The way a bear trap works, you roll one yellow die if you move over the top of it, and if you roll a mana symbol, the little explosion, you lose an action, and again, monsters ignore it. If you have this symbol here, it's a pillar, symbolizes a pillar. And pillars block line of sight going into or through that zone. So if a monster's standing here and if a monster's here and a monster's here and you're here with a bow, you can't shoot at either one of them. You have to move into the zone to attack it. All right. And then if it's the little swirly like this, it's a fountain. So that's this thing here. And if you move into that zone, all heroes gain an action type, which means that you can use an action to heal 4 health. All right, and then there is an abyss, which there's none here, but there is an abyss type, which basically all that means is there's no floor. So that's their way of explaining that you can't move on to that tile because there's an endless abyss underneath it. And then the last thing, of course, is the forge, and this is the one that everyone loves because one of the biggest issues with the game, it was so easy because you could spend for free. You can take 3 items, merge them together, to transmute them together to draw a card from the next highest rarity of items. So with this, a character has to come into this room to a forge and can only do that at the forge. Now, it takes an action because you have to interact with the forge, and interact is an action. So you have to interact with the forge to transmute 3 items, and it's the based on the rarity of the highest level item, or lowest level item. And starting gear counts as common items for this purpose. But yeah, everything else is exactly the same from the first season. All right. And that's pretty much it for special items. Now this is an objective token, so that's why that's there. So these are objective tokens. All right. So that's pretty much it for the board. Everything else is exactly the same. It's just designed different. So when you open this room, you're going to have a mob spawn here, one there, and then you're going to put treasure tokens in these 3 locations, and then of course the specialty chest in that corner. So this is obviously the boss room. And then you've got the portal, which basically is going to be specified what it does in the scenario that you're working on, that you're doing. So, all right. So now let's take a look at the characters and classes. So the character cards are going to be slightly different than they used to be. One, they're going to add your max mana and max health, which will go up as you go up in level. You're going to have your basic action, basic ability that you can do once per turn. You're going to have your shadow mode ability, again, only if you roll your mask, and then the name of the character, and of course so that's your basic character cards. All right, so then here's your kit. So this is the wizard. Keep in mind all classes have a unique kit to use them, and they all have 13 class cards. Everybody will have an activation token, and the reason why that's important is because unlike the original, we get to choose, as the players, we get to choose who goes first, who goes second, etc., on and on. And basically what you do is when you complete your turn, you just flip your activation token to show that you've already gone this turn. And then at the beginning of the next turn, you just flip it back over. All right. So with the wizard, he's unique because he has this amulet. So basically, how that works is each square of the amulet does something different. So you use a action to do one of these things, and then it's got this rotating. Oops, wrong way. Then you got this rotating piece in the center. So it rotates after you use a spell or spend 1 mana. So if I start it here and it's spend 2 mana to heal 3, I could either do that, and if I use that ability, then this rotates 1, and then that's the next ability I can use. Okay, so that's how that works. I have to use this. Once I use this ability, which I spend a mana to get +1 defense, then it rotates again, and then I get that, where I can spend 1 mana to move an additional 1. So if I'm moving, I can do that to get a +1 movement, and then it would move to there, etc. And it keeps doing that. Now, if it's a situation where I'm here, but I really want to move an extra space, I can spend 1 mana to move it, another mana to move it, and now, as long as I have a third mana, I can move 1. So that way, it shows that you can't just, okay, I'm just gonna spend all three actions attacking. So that's how that works. Now, so how the skills work is when you start off, when you start a game, every character chooses one skill out of their 13 skill cards. So if I choose this one, let's say this is the one I choose. Now, as a wizard, its skill is attack. It's an attack that I spend 2 mana, I get +2 damage, and I add fire to the target, a fire token to the target, which we'll go over in just a moment. Now, if I want to just be a all-around wizard that has options, then I'll probably cover this. I'll have to put it there. I'll want to put it there. Meaning that once I get there, I get here. Now that will cover up that ability. So that will cover up the 1 mana for 1 damage. But now if I just want to be a damage dealer and I don't care about healing, then I'll put it there. Or, if I've got a good tank with me, I'll put it there. Either way, no matter where I put it, I cover up one of the abilities that I'm using. And then as I keep gaining abilities, I'll keep covering up abilities. As I keep gaining skills, I'll keep covering up abilities. And then as I'm using them, this constantly rotates as I use them. And again, it works the exact same way. So that's how the skills work for the wizard. So pretty unique, kind of neat. I like it a lot. It makes you got 13 skills to choose from. So mixing and matching, trying to figure out what combos and things like that to work, it seems like that's going to be a lot of fun, actually. It's going to be a lot of fun. Another thing that's really important to note for the wizard, if you're going to use an attack ability, anything that says attack on it, you have to have a magic weapon equipped. So any weapon that does magic damage. So that is one of his rules that you have to keep in mind when you're playing a wizard. Alright, as for the Barbarian. So the Barbarian is usually going to have lots of health. And they have a stance bar. So what that stance is every time they take damage, no matter how they take damage, they can choose to put their damage over here in this dashboard, the Berserker dashboard. They can only have 7 total in here. There are abilities that allow them to get more to that, but as of starting, when you're starting out, it's only 7. So to change a stance, you have to spend one of your tokens that's in here to change the stance from here to here, that kind of thing. And then when you're in these stances, you don't get a passive ability. It's just when you're in these stances, you've got to spend whatever it says to spend to get that ability. So the way stances work, it tells you right here on the card what stance they go under. And so that means while I'm in this stance, I can spend 1 to re-roll any attack, or I can spend 1 to get +1 to my die roll. Now, if it's this one and it says any stance, that means I could put it under any stance, and while I'm in this stance, I can do any of these. So pretty cool. I could see where that could be a lot of fun. Now if we can only get better art for... Yeah. I mean, what the hell is on her shoulders? But anyway. Alright, then there's the Paladin. I really like the Paladin. Paladin gets these auras, and so you choose your skill from your 13 skills, and you put it under your auras here. And so you can spend a mana to attach an aura to any hero at any time. You can spend a mana to bless any skill until the end of the round, or when the aura leaves the figure. Flip this card. Alright, so what that means. So right here I've got the courage level 1 that gives me +1 movement points. So what that means is if I want to give this aura to someone, I spend 1 mana, and I can put it on myself as well. So I get the plus... Sorry, Paladin. So I get the +1, and I put that underneath. And now he's got the aura. It shows the aura because I've got him standing on the little token. Alright? So actually really cool. I dig how they did it. It'd probably be a lot easier in real life instead of in Tabletop Simulator. But anyway, so now he gets a +1, and he's got the aura until I decide I don't want the aura anymore. And so he'll always have the +1 movement. I can also give this to, say, the Barbarian, so he get into combat faster, the Rogue, so he can run faster. Not that the Rogue's going to need it, but, so on and so forth. Just a cool idea. Now, so if I want to, I could spend a mana to bless it. Unfortunately, this is the starting skill, so it doesn't have anything special about it. But let's say I have this ability under this one, and I give this to the Barbarian. Now, this gives the ability to spend a mana to heal the hero with this aura by 2. So I give this to the Barbarian, so he's out fighting bad guys, and he's getting wounded, and she's damaging herself because she wants to do more damage, that kind of thing. So she's getting the tokens. This is a really good combo with the Barbarian. So she's taking damage so she can put more points in her pool, but we don't want her to die, so we're going to do this so that we can heal her up. Now I spend a mana to bless it. Now it gets better. So now, when I spend a mana, it heals the hero with this aura and any other hero by 2. Any other hero by 2. Yeah, okay. And then flip this card at the start of the round or when removed. So basically, that's just another reminder that at the end of the round, it flips back over. So yeah, just pretty cool. And so all the skills except for the starting skill have a bless side. The the Paladin's the only one that has two sides to the skill. So it's a really cool concept. So a lot of these are really resource management. So trying to manage your resources with your mana versus your attacking, and I don't know. I think it's a really cool concept. So now we're going to discuss one of my favorite champions or classes is the rogue. So the rogue at the beginning of every turn is going to draw 3 tokens from this bag. Now, so what's going to happen is when the rogue chooses his 3 actions, because you have 3 actions, when he chooses what 3 actions he's going to take, every action he takes, he flips a token. So what this means is if he takes a move action, then he can flip this over and gain the benefit of +1 movement. Or if he takes an attack action or any kind of other action that requires dice to roll, then he can flip one of these and get +1 yellow dice. Now, here's the important thing. Let's say all he's going to do is move because he has to flip over one of his tokens. So if he's going to use all 3 actions to move, he's going to move, flip this one, move, flip this one, so he doesn't get any bonus from those at all. And then he's going to move and get +1 movement point for that one. Okay? So it's very important how you actually use your dice or use your tokens. As you go up in level, there are going to be cards or skills that allow you to put other tokens in, like this one or like these two. These 2 tokens, if it's a shadow token and then a poison token. The poison token is going to be based on what the skill says. So if you put in one that is poison like this one, you gain tokens. So if you chose this skill, you gain 2 tokens, 2 poison tokens to go in your bag. And then poison enemies take 2 wounds at the start of their activation. So soon as a mob, if you poisoned a mob, you attacked a mob, you poison them, and then at the start of their activation during the monster phase, they would take 2 damage, 2 wounds. And if you did something like this, you would use this skill, you would get 2 shadow tokens to go in your bag, and then you spend mana when you're attacking to get +1. But when you have a shadow token, you're always considered to be in shadow for that attack. So you're gonna not only have this attack ability where you spend a mana to get a +1 attack, but you also are going to get to roll the shadow die as well. So, and then of course this one allows you to gain those tokens to your kit as well. So all the skills are going to be basically adding tokens to your kit to make the rogue just even stronger. So the rogue's just a lot of fun. A lot of randomness with the rogue, but I kind of dig that. And it's also strategic because you've got to plan out your whole turn because you want to maximize your tokens that you're drawing. So it's just fantastic. So there are 3 classes that aren't available in this demo. One of them is the Shaman. So the Shaman's going to get this element tracker, and what that means is anytime you roll mana on any of the dice that you're rolling, you get to add mana to your mana pool, right? To restore any mana that you've lost. If you're a Shaman and you roll mana, you have the choice to either draw the mana like you normally would, or elevate one of your elements by 1 spot. If at any time at the end of your turn that you have any of your elements at max, you can activate any one of these abilities. And it doesn't cost you anything. Now, a lot of her abilities cost elemental powers. So you have to have, it may say, 2 fire, which means that you have to spend 2 points in fire to be able to use that ability, etc., etc. All right. 2 of her class skills are summoning elementals. So you can summon a fire elemental or an ice elemental. Okay? So she does have pets. The pets, the fire, they count as heroes. They're the same hit points as the shaman. They have the same amount of hit points as the shaman. The first action that you give them is a free action. So you can tell them to either move or to attack, one or the other. Like I said, the first action is free, so you can give them the action to move, or you can give them the action to attack, one or the other. If you need them to attack more or move more, etc., you can spend your actions to give them more than just one action. So if you need them to move and attack, the move will be free. The attack would take up one of your actions. So that's how those pets work. And that's pretty much how the shaman works. I mean, that's pretty much all of her kit. All right. The next one is the ranger. I love the fact that you can play an actual centaur as a player character. Not really keen on the look or the art of it, but cool that you can actually play a centaur. All right. So how the ranger works, once you shuffle your 12 cards and you attack someone, once you take the attack action, you start pulling cards off the top of your deck. So you draw them one at a time, and you get to choose when you want to stop. Now, what's important to note is the arrows at the top of each card. Not really sure what these 2 icons are. There's nothing in the rulebook that states what they are. I can only assume that they are some kind of nullifying card or something. I'm not quite sure. So what you're going to do is your target number is going to be 4. You're looking for 4 arrows. If you manage to get 4, then you get to apply the top row to the attack. So the top row of all the cards that you uncovered to the attack. If you get under 3, if you get under 4 arrows, then you apply the black portion of the card for all the cards that are revealed. If you go over your target number of 4, then you apply the bottom row to the attack from all the cards that were shown. So, for instance, these don't have any effect at all, where these have just a minor effect compared to the other 2 rows. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's very simple, straightforward how the ranger works. So basically, your target number is 4. The closer if you hit 4, you get better effects. If you go under 4, you get not as good effects, but better than if you go over. Kind of cool concept and a very unique mechanic for that. All right, so for this next class and the final class so far is the Necromancer. Now, it is what they're doing with the Kickstarter, they're unlocking one thing per day, one item per day. And so the first day, it was the Necromancer class. Since then, they've unlocked 2 sculpts, one for a female Necromancer and the other one for a male Necromancer. So how the Necromancer works. So the Necromancer has its own track that it goes by. You move the point on the track every time something dies, anything dies. Then you move along the track. Now, once you actually get to a place on the track where there's a skull, then at that point you get a bonus. You get passive ability to your attacks, things like that. Most of the skills the Necromancer has to use these souls to pay for those abilities to allow them to do their attacks or their special abilities on the cards, that kind of thing. Some of the abilities that or skills that it has can actually resummon or revive dead monsters. They can there's three types. There's a basic mob, which basically resurrects or revives one of the minions. There's the leader skill that revives a leader, or a monster reborn skill, which gets a roaming monster. Now, you get to choose which one it is. So if you've killed several roaming monsters and it's in the discard pile, you can choose whichever roaming monster you want. Now, how that works is when it's just level 1, all that happens is that it gains a permanent taunt ability, and it follows the Necromancer around. So at level 1, he's basically just a a, a tank for your Necromancer and the group as a whole, I guess at that point, because as the Necromancer's running around, his resurrected monster will always be attacked first and kill. They have to attack and kill that monster before they can attack any hero. Now, it does not, keep in mind, if you're looking at this, there's nothing that says that it gets equipment. So that means that you cannot give the thing orders to attack. It can only sit there and defend, and you use the defense on the card. Once you summon one of the monsters, there is rings that, just like the Paladin auras, that go underneath the monsters to show that it's your pet. There are only a certain number of pets you can have. There's three. You have 3 small rings and 1 large ring. So that dictates how many pets you can ever have. So in other words, you'll only ever have 4 pets at any one time. Now, once these skills start getting higher level, you can actually get them. You can actually get them to where you can give them orders. For instance, like the Leader Revive 2, which you can get at level 3. You keep the card for the first skill, and this is an upgrade skill, so it takes the place of your Leader Revival 1. And what it will do is you keep the other card too, so as a reference, because it still has the taunt and it still follows you around. The difference is you may equip or change a weapon to the leader when you reorganize. When you're reorganizing, so you can swap equipment back and forth from your pet to yourself and give them equipment. Now, the action, you can give it an action to move a leader up to 2 spaces, and you can spend an action to attack with a leader. So you have to use one of your actions. So unlike the Shaman pet, you can actually you have to spend an action to move it 2 spaces or to attack, one of the two, etc. So same with the roaming monster. You keep the level 1 card just like before, and then what you do is you move. You spend an action to move it 2 zones, or spend an action to attack with it. Keep in mind, roaming monsters don't get equipment, so there's no special rules about changing equipment for them. So, one of the special rules for this, if a leader dies and it has equipment, the Necromancer, it goes into the discard pile, but the Necromancer will receive the ring back to be allowed to resummon another mob at some point, and the Necromancer receives the item that the pet was carrying as well. So all in all, the Necromancer is a really cool the concept is a really cool idea for a pet class. So pretty darn cool. People were screaming for a pet class. This is a unique version of a pet class, and I absolutely love it. Uh, One more thing I'd like to go over that is slightly different than the original is the gameplay. So there's only four phases. There's the hero phase, the enemy phase, the level up phase, and the darkness phase. Okay, so for hero phase, you there's four things that you can spend your actions on. You get three actions. You can do a movement action, which is exactly the same as before, a combat action, which is exactly the same as before. Then there's the trades and equipment. Now, if you do a trades and equipment swap, so that is anyone in the zone. So that means if you've got an extra action, let's say you're a support character and you have no one to heal, you have no other actions to do, you have nothing that you can do to hurt the monster in the zone, whatever the case may be. And let's say you have an extra action, but your two warriors need to switch weapons. You can spend your action to activate a trade, and then the two of them can trade, and you don't even have to be a part of it. But you can use that is an absolute gray area in the system, or in the, so some little tricks there can be had with the trade and equip action. Then you got the special action that allows you to do the special abilities on the actual character card. The movement action, you have two movement points every time you use a move action. Pretty much works exactly the same. The only main difference is the interact with objects in their current zone. So if you interact with an object in the current zone, you interact with everything. So in other words, if there's five treasure tokens, you get all five. If there's a game item or quest item or whatever the case may be with treasure tokens in one corner and this is in another corner, you get all of it. And then on top of it, if you pick up an object, you then get a free trade and equip action, meaning anyone in the room, including yourself, can be handed that object. That is also something different with the combat system. Is if you kill a monster and you gain the equipment that he was holding, you can immediately hand it to the guy standing next to you. So let's say you're a wizard, the barbarian's running up to attack, but you slay the beast a zone away, and you get that Billy Badass axe. You can immediately hand it to the barbarian who's in the zone right next to you, who's in the zone with you. So you can immediately do that trade for as a free action once that's done. All right. As the level up phase, we pretty much already went over it, but just to quickly go over it again, you got to get to level 2, you need 5 XP, 10 for 3, 15 for 4, and 20 for 5. And then when you level up, you get all these cool little items. And then last but not least, you get the darkness phase. Now, the darkness phase at the beginning, the darkness phase, you just you just move the token one square. Once you get to here, you spawn a monster on every single monster icon. So turn 3, every single monster or every single icon gets a monster. You draw a random card, mob card for the monster. From the looks of it, now keep in mind in the rulebook there's nothing about these two here, but from the looks of it, with them having this in the demo, when you land here, you add that to the token, the token bag is all I can guess right there. I'm just guessing. I'm pretty sure because of the way they set this demo up, I'm pretty sure that's how that's going to work. Now, once you get to round 10, turn 10, when you get to turn 11, this will flip over. Now, when it flips over, it's going to look like this. Now, they set it up to where it wouldn't flip in the demo, but it will look like this. And what this means is this is going to be 11 when you hit 11, which now makes it 1. Once you get to 3, then it's going to load, or it's going to spawn a roaming monster for every single spawn location. On every single spawn location, it's gonna be a roaming monster. Because if you look up here, this is for a regular mob spawn. This is for a roaming monster because he's got the smiley face, right? With the little spikes around the circle. So this, every 3 turns, a roaming monster will spawn on every single zone. So this is designed to make the players continuously work toward their goal, continuously work toward the end to get it done, unlike Zombicide or some of the other games, or even Massive Darkness 1, where you can just go, okay, well, I'm just going to keep searching rooms so that I can gear my guys up so I can be ready for the end boss. Nope, this is saying, get there fast or you're going to get overrun. So, pretty interesting concept and way of doing that for sure. All right, so the last few things I want to touch on was the last thing I want to touch on because it wasn't really covered. The fire and frost tokens. So basically, it's fairly simple. Monster abilities, character abilities, things like that will cause you to add one of these tokens to a monster or something like that, or maybe even the monster adding it to your character. So what that means is when you activate, if you have a fire token and you activate, you roll 1 yellow die per fire token, and you suffer 1 wound per sword. So basically, if you have 3 fire tokens on you, you'll roll 3 yellow dice when your character activates, when your hero activates, and you take that many damage based on how many swords are rolled. Now, as for the frost tokens, if you have a frost token, if you try to perform an action, you remove a frost token instead. So basically, frost tokens remove actions. You lose an action for every frost token, and you just remove it once you use it. Once it's done, it's done. Or once it's hit, you remove it. You're done. Roaming monsters and bosses are immune to these 2 tokens. So that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, I'll probably do a actual playthrough at some point so that you can actually see the game played. But that's the differences between the major differences. There might be other little small ones here and there, but that's pretty much them in a nutshell. Between Massive Darkness 1 and Massive Darkness 2. So check out the Kickstarter, see if it might be something you'd like. The big thing is, I mean, you get a ton of miniatures for $100. So, I mean, because you get all the stretch goals, everything for $100, it's a pretty good deal in and of itself. And seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. So can't wait to see it. Can't wait to do it. But hey, if you made it this long, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. I do appreciate each and every one of them. It allows me to put out more content like this. If you want to see more, then hit the like button. That'll let me know that you want to see more content like this. And other than that, I'll see you on a video soon. Bye.